Hello again and welcome back. This is part two of the introductory video for the Introducing GIS 101. Wanted to share with you a few websites and show you around a little bit on our momentum side and share some documents like the syllabus and so forth and do a little quick review, as quick as I can anyway, of some of this material. Most of you are new to the classes this semester, and you might not be familiar or just now getting familiar with all the different resources that's available to you at Roane State. For this class in the online format, we'll primarily use a site called Momentum. But before we jump into that site, I wanted to share with you just a few websites that you'll find important during your time here. Of course, one of the most important, the first one, is the Roane State homepage, the main site, and it's at www.roanestate.edu. And this is a really well organized website, and you'll find that it has lots of resources on it. And so you can go, for example, into the student resources section, and in here you'll find links to like the academic calendars, the bookstore link where you can find out information. They even have information posted about the books available for all the different classes and ordering information and so forth. And there's just lots of useful links in here. This Radar Alert, I wanted to mention that to you and bring you aware of that. That is a great service for letting you know when emergency things might be going on campus, including like closings of the campus during bad weather or things like that. They have like tornado alerts and things like that that I get on my phone all the time from having this service. So it's a free service, and you can basically, if you use a cell phone, you can set it up to where they'll send you messages if there's an emergency. And they're pretty good to only send emergency related messages. So I find it really helpful. So you might want to check that out. Um, again, I mentioned the calendars. They've got several academic years worth of calendars available for starting this fall and going right on through next summer, 2014. So check that site out and get comfortable with it. We won't use it a lot for our class per se, but I just wanted to make you aware that there's a lot of resources on here. So you might want to check that out. Another site that you'll want to check out is oops, let me switch over here, is back up here to RadarNet. Okay, the Roane State RadarNet site is very helpful. You'll hear a lot about that. You probably already heard about that. And there's lots of information about you as a student, your own student account on there. When you log into this account, it sort of tailors itself to your specific needs, and you can get information about your classes that you're taking. I think you can even get grade information on there, though I'm not 100% sure about that. But you'll probably be very familiar with this site as well. But something else I wanted to mention to you about this site is there's a link on there that takes you to software that as a student you're entitled to get discounts on some software. And the page that you'll go to once you log into that and click the software link, it will take you to a page like this where it has a tab for students and a tab for faculty and staff. And you can get some, especially the Microsoft software, you can get some good discounts on that. And they have some other software, I think from Adobe, I think, and some other stuff that might be available to you. And I haven't checked that out in a little while. I'm going to that as we're talking here, just to kind of see what they have on there. It looks like they've got some statistical software, and I thought they have a link somewhere to some Adobe software, but I'll let you explore that a little bit on your own. The main thing for our purposes is if you don't already have Microsoft Word, then you might want to get a copy of that. It's not required, I guess. I'm not going to say it's required that you have Microsoft Word, but you will need to have some kind of a document software. In a real pinch, if you can't afford to buy the software, many of you already have it, I know. And if you have it or can get it, then Microsoft Word is a good preferred format for our exams and so forth. You'll use it for some of the exams, some of the assignments and things like that in conjunction with other software that we have. Most all of it available to you for free. This is one of the exceptions, and so this is, again, it's optional if you buy the Office software, but you will need to use some kind of a word processing software. And again, in a pinch, what you can do is most versions of Windows, which everybody will have, I'm sure, has something called WordPad. There's also a program called Notepad in there where you can make just basic text documents without any formatting. WordPad actually lets you have some formatting, and it's a little bit like Microsoft Word. So if you don't have this software and you either don't want to or aren't able to buy it, then go ahead and use WordPad or something like that for the cases where you have to write something up into a document to turn in. Okay, just wanted to mention that. But it is available at a discount, so I wanted to make you aware of that as well. So you don't have to run out to like Walmart and buy it. You can buy it a lot cheaper in many cases through your student discount. So wanted to make sure you were aware of that. And again, RaiderNet's something you'll use a lot, though again in our class you won't use it as directly, but it's something that you'll use as a student quite a bit. And what we use in class a lot is Momentum. Okay, now that's our primary software, and you'll want to get familiar with this site because that's how you get to our class material. And so, in fact, if you're listening to this video, then you probably already are a little bit familiar with it. But just wanted to make you aware, here's the home page for it. And on the home page, if you want a little tutorial about using Momentum, they've got a little link you can follow here that takes you to a YouTube video that gives you a short introduction to Momentum. Now, there's lots of features in Momentum that we won't be using, that you might use in another one of your classes or you might see in a video somewhere, but we will use it. So I'm going to log on here in a minute and show you kind of what we are using. But there are some features such as the grading feature and the quiz feature and that kind of thing that I don't use in the Momentum for my classes. But this is a site you'll primarily use. If you ever have any problems or need some help with Momentum or having some kind of a computer related issue that's not directly to do with the software, the ArcGIS software, then call the help desk, and their numbers are on here. There's several people there that you'll work with, and they all are excellent to work with, and I've really been happy with the service that we get from our help desk. And they go by CTAT, C-T-A-T, CTAT, for their acronym. And again, they're really, really helpful. Now, they're not going to be able to help you with the GIS software or some of the programs that we'll use for utilities. What they can help you with is your email, the Momentum program itself, RaiderNet, things like that. They're really good for that stuff. And so if you ever have any problems in that area, feel free to give them a call and they'll help you. Now I'm going to log in and show you just a quick review of our site. And when you log into Momentum, it takes you to your own customized page. It knows when you log in with your account, it knows if you're a student or if you're staff and so forth, and you'll have a variety of different options available to you. So your screen might not look exactly like mine because I'm logging in with a staff account, but it'll be very similar. So you can see here's my fall semester classes, and I'm teaching 2 classes. Many of you will be taking 2 or 3 classes probably, and you'll see them in the list here. And for our 101 class, I'm going to log into that. And when you log in, it takes you directly to what we call the news page, which is really, it's the course home page. And right on the top, and now you're seeing material here from last year's class, so recognize that some of this is dated. I'm recording it live here for 2013, but you're seeing some of the material that I still need to clean off on the news page for you. But the news here, as the name implies, is where it's the first place you come to when you log into the class, and so it's where I'll post any kind of important notices, any updates for the week to let you know when the class material has been posted for that week, reminders about exams and so forth. So it's mainly, you could say it's an important news section, I guess. And so it's a site you'll want to visit often, just to see if there's been any announcements and so forth. Typically, I have one announcement a week at the beginning of the week to let you know the postings are ready and that kind of thing. And when we have exams coming up, I'll let you know sort of a reminder about that. And if I get things graded and so forth, I'll post information about that. That's kind of the things you'll see on the news section. Okay, and then the class list shows everybody that's in the class. I think everyone sees this page if I'm not mistaken. And it's a way you can email each other if you need to, or you can email me real quickly. There's a separate email link on here as well. But if you want to send a real quick email, a little shortcut you can use is go down and click beside the person's name that you're emailing, and then click this little icon right here, and that will open up an email for you and put it in what they call the compose mode, and you can just real quickly type in your note. And what I would ask on the subject line, when you're sending something to me, please try to remember to preface it with a GIS 101, and then a dash, and then whatever your subject is. So that way it makes it a lot easier when you're viewing your email messages as a group. You can see real quickly which class they're pertaining to. And I'll try to follow this guideline as well and let you know which class when you're getting emails from me, so you'll know. So it's a good quick way to send an email without having to go into the email program. Now, if you do need to go into the email program, I want to jump over a little bit here, but you can, there's different ways you can get into it. If you're already in a class like we are here, you can just click the email. If you're not in the class, you'll see an email link over here to the right. Like if you're back out on your home page before you've entered any of the classes, you can click a link over there that takes you into an email. Once you're in the class, just click on this email link here, and it will take you to a page where you can see all of your email. And what I like to do, if you notice right at the top, it filters by, if you're logged into a class, it filters by that class, which in theory is great because it should just show you emails from that class. But for some reason, the system has always had a little bit of a glitch in it, and that it doesn't always show you everything you're going to want to see. Sometimes, and I don't know if it's because we're all either teaching or taking multiple classes or what, but I've noticed that sometimes you'll miss an email if you just let it filter it by the class name. So what I do is I'll change this and click on it and just click all messages. Now, unfortunately, you have to do this each time you go to this email program, so it's a little bit aggravating, but that's what I usually do right off the bat is I'll just quickly switch to all messages. Then even if I'm logged into a certain class, I'm still seeing email messages from other classes. There's nothing showing up now because we're at the beginning of a semester, but that's another reason why I preface in the subject line with the class number, because if it was showing up in this list, then you would see all of those at a glance. And I'll just bounce over to one of the classes from last spring so you can kind of see the email messages that and you can see where people have used the class. It makes it real easy to see which class an email is pertaining to. So you can sort it by that, and you can check your email messages related to that class real easily. So just remember that if you do use it, again, all messages, filter by all messages is really handy. You can set up folders on the left-hand side, and you can organize your email messages a little bit better that way. And you can see I have them going all the way back to 2008. So lots of email on there. You'll accumulate lots of email throughout the semester. I'll send you quite a bit of email, and just during your time here at Roane State, you'll accumulate a lot of stuff. So you might want to set up some folders and kind of organize things a little bit better that way. So that's the email. Now in our class, I just wanted to point out that you have actually two email addresses at Roane State. You have the one that is your Momentum email address, and that's what we'll use mostly for the classes. So when you're in a one-on-one class, as example, you're going to want to use Momentum to send me a message and to check for messages from me. Now there's also something you might have heard of from the RaiderNet that you can get to from the RaiderNet system, and I've already logged into it on this link here, so I'll show you what it looks like. And this version is your domain ends with a .roanestate.edu. Okay, in the Momentum, it's more something like elearn.roanestate.edu, I think, something like that. Now the difference in the two is the momentum system is it's a closed system. In other words, you cannot email from outside of momentum into momentum. So it forces you to be in momentum basically when you're doing email for the most part. And that while that sounds frustrating, and at times it may be, it does help a lot to keep things organized. And so I really, really like it and would like to encourage you strongly to use the Momentum email when you're trying to contact me about something to do with this class. Now, if you've got something that is outside of the class situation you need to email me about, or if momentum should go down for some reason and you need to send me an urgent email while it's down, because that happens sometimes, then go ahead and use the roanstate.edu, the RaiderNet version of the email. But again, try to use momentum all you can. I've posted both of my email addresses on our syllabus just in case. But again, I want to emphasize to try to use the momentum because it really, really helps me. And I think it will help you too as we move into the classes and you get more comfortable with using the system as well. Just remember though, that if you tend to use another email address outside of Roane State, then you will not be able to send me an email into Momentum from an outside address. So you'll have to log into Momentum to do that. So it's really important to kind of keep that in mind because every semester there's usually one or two students that I find that has a little problem with that. They like to use, maybe Gmail account or a Yahoo account or something like that. And you can send stuff in RaiderNet through the roanstate.edu address from any account. It's more like a normal email, online email account. But with Momentum, again, you have to be logged into Momentum to send a note in Momentum. So it's one extra step, a little frustrating at times, but again, helps keep things organized. So we'll try to use Momentum as much as we can for email. And that's my primary way of getting a hold of you is through Momentum as well. So be sure you're comfortable or get comfortable with at least using this email system in here. And so the content section, okay, is the primary spot. Other than the news, which checks, you can check for any urgent messages or updates. The class material, for the most part, is going to reside here in the content section. So this is the second place you want to go to after you went to the news page, is this content section. Now this will change a little bit as I progress through the class. I like to add my materials on a week by week basis because each year I try to customize the class a little bit for that year. And while I'll reuse a lot of material from one year to the next, this makes it easier for me to add new stuff. So while we have 15 weeks usually in a semester, you won't see anything past the current week's material. Now it aggregates throughout the semester, so you'll always see the previous week's material as we move along through the semester, but you'll only see as current as that current week that we're in. So what you'll be seeing on your end once you log into this on Monday morning is you'll see the course overview, reference materials, data sources, and week one materials. Now these other sections, especially the reference and data sources, there might not be much in there yet. And I might not even make them active during the first week because you're just getting used to things. I like to go with the course overview first and then the week one materials to start with usually. And and you can click the little plus sign beside each one to expand it. And so in the course overview, I don't know why it jumps over here to the right so far, but in the course overview is where you'll find the syllabus, maybe some textbook information if I have it available there for this current new textbooks, and then some getting started information that's just designed to help orient you a little bit to the Momentum site. Some of these might not be showing up. I've got some of these hidden because they're a little bit dated, but we have the introduction to the Momentum site back out on the home page now, and so that's actually quite good, so I tend to refer students to that one as well. And the software needed for GIS 101, that's sort of a live document. Sometimes I'll update that, but I'll always try to let you know where we are with the current software that we're needing. And you don't have to get all the software right immediately at the beginning. Some of it will, as we cover in class, I'll mention it to you and show you where you can get it then. I try to use, by the way, freeware software as much as I can. A lot of times you'll see me reference both. Like I might be using a program like one, for example, that we use a lot is called Snagit. and it costs, I think, $29 to buy that. We have it on the lab computers at Oak Ridge, and so you'll see it there as well. Sometimes they have a little bit older version there than what you can get online, but it's not that expensive, and it's really handy for doing screenshots, capturing an image, which you'll be doing a lot in this class because it's really the only effective way I can see some of your finished products is if you do a screenshot for me. And so I'll frequently ask you to do a screenshot on the exams and things like that. So you'll need an image capturing software, but you don't have to have Snagit. There are freeware versions available, and as I become aware of some of that, some of those sources that are maybe freeware programs, I'll post it or let you know so that you have options about which software you get. So again, there are just a few programs that are for fee, and but they're virtually all of them optional. And so if you don't want to buy the software, then we'll try to find a freeware version that you can use. And so we'll talk more about that as it comes up. But this section on the course overview is going to be important to you here in the beginning, and then the week one. And I'm going to go ahead and open the week one, even though maybe some of the material, well, most of this material should be in this year's class as well. In the week one, again, I don't know why it's jumping over. Usually these main headings are over to the left, but for some reason they're jumping over on this version. But you'll see right at the top, each week, you'll see a summary of activities for that week. That's your primary document to go to. I'm going to open this one. Again, this one's for 2012. I haven't updated it yet at the time I made this video, but at least the format will be similar. And I just wanted you to see what the format looks like and so forth, so that you can have an idea of what to expect. So while that's opening in the background, not sure why it's so slow to open. Momentum sometimes bogs down a little bit, and you'll find that occasionally momentum will go down. Usually it's not down very long though when it happens, and the program resides on servers in other parts of the state, and there's lots of reasons things happen, but every now and then the site will go down temporarily, and they'll get it back up running usually pretty quickly. But again, the important thing to remember, summary of activities each week. That document tells you what we're covering that week and what's expected of you and what you'll need to turn in. Okay, and let's see if that's loaded or not. There it goes. Okay, and so it's organized usually like this. I'll have so that you can print these out, put them in notebooks, what I would do, and I've got them organized at the top. You know, week one tells you when it was updated last, and then a list of what the activities include. And I'll put a little post date on there, because if I need to update something during the week, then I'll add a new post date. So that's your way of knowing what material I added that week. I don't do that very often. I try to list everything on a Monday at the beginning of the week, and I don't usually add to it that week unless I need to. But occasionally I need to, and that's why I have these last updated dates in there. If I do this and then back out on the content page, I'll try to remember to add a little label beside the document here saying new, or I'll say like new and updated on a certain date. That way, at a glance, you can see if I've updated something. So what I suggest to students to do is to log in, at least 3 times, 4 times a week, just to check and make sure if anything's been added or updated. Again, it's not very often that I do that, but sometimes it happens. So you'll want to check from time to time, and that's a good way to know. I'll try to let you know by putting a little bullet there where it says new and that kind of thing. So at a glance, you can tell what's changed. So this is the format of the summary of activities, and I'll just, with bullet items, I'll post what we're doing that week, what you need to read. A lot of times there'll be reading assignments, there'll be hands-on assignments from the textbooks and so forth. And so that's how I set that up. And so you'll be very familiar with these throughout the course. That's, again, your primary resource to know what are we doing this week and what am I supposed to be covering. And as we progress through the course, I'll make the other weeks active as we go into those weeks. And again, the previous week's materials will always be active throughout the course, so you can always look back in time. So we've got that section. That's very important. You'll need that content section a lot. And we also have a discussion section. And in the discussions is an area where I will give you some material to get a little more class participation going. Um, and those will be week by week as well. So this first week, you'll be asked to introduce yourself and usually I'll give you some guidelines about how long I'm expecting. I'll say in so many words, like this example down here, in 150 to 200 words. I'm not a real stickler about that. I don't go through and count the words, but the main thing to keep in mind is if I'm putting something like that, it's a guideline to let you know kind of what I'm expecting. In other words, what you don't want to do is just go in there and put a one sentence or two sentences and figure that's complete. Usually I'm looking for a discussion that's at least a paragraph or two, and it's up to you how if you do more than that. Um, it's very hard to come up with a real rigid guideline here. The main thing to say though is I'm looking for a discussion, and it's hard to do a discussion in just one or two sentences. So at least give me a paragraph or something like that, so that it shows some contribution from your part and sharing information with the class. A lot of times what we'll be doing is discussing some of the concepts, of course, that we're covering in the reading material. And so you'll want to read that material first, and then sometime during the week, pop on here and give a little discussion about it. And it's interesting to read through the other students' discussions as well, and so I encourage you to do that. And now just be real careful, don't copy somebody's material verbatim or anything like that. But read through other people's materials as you get a chance and just get a feel for what other people are saying about something. And a lot of times they'll look very similar because we are all talking about the same thing. But just make sure you contribute in your own words some information. Now I don't have these discussions every week. In the beginning of the class, for the first third or so of the class, I do typically have a discussion each week. And then as we get into more and more material, I'll back off a little bit. So you won't see all of this in yours the first week, but this was last year's material, and you can see kind of once we got up to week 6, we started having some weeks we skipped discussions. And then the last third, there was a lot of skipping. And that's because we're covering enough material that I'm trying to take into account that you're very busy, and then a lot of you are taking 3 classes or more as well. And so I'm trying not to work you to death, just enough to get some discussions going, and get you contributing. Now, let me mention while I'm here on the discussions, I'll post in the summary of activities. It's nearly always going to be on Sunday when your discussions are due by or before Sunday. And I usually make the cutoff at like 6 p.m. And that gives you a week basically, or right at a week, because we'll start Monday morning and I try to post everything as best I can around 10 a.m. on Monday morning. Sometimes I'm a little bit late on that because I've got so many other things going on. If I am late, I will try to remember to always post a note in the news section that, these are in progress, check back early afternoon or something like that. But typically, I try to have everything posted by 10 a.m. on Monday morning, and then I expect your part to be loaded by 6 p.m. on Sunday, the following Sunday. So what I always tell people is, don't wait to the last minute to start doing this because sometimes it takes you longer than you think it will, um, especially in the beginning. So I wouldn't recommend putting it off to the end, but you do have that much time to work on it. And a lot of people, I know the weekends are better for them to work on weekends. And so typically, I'll see a lot of postings on Friday and Saturday and maybe Sunday morning. But whatever works for you, you've got basically that week to get things turned in for your discussion. And most of the assignments are that way as well. Occasionally I'll have a 2-week long assignment, and so you have a little more time to work on it. Now, one thing I want to say while I'm thinking here and talking about this is, in the past, some of you were in the spring classes, and so you worked with me there. And in the past, I've been really, really flexible about people that are sometimes late with postings. But this semester, I'm going to be a little more strict on the requirements because it's a lot of effort on my part to have to change the deadline dates on here. I have to change the system and update it to allow you to post material late because it will not let me post things for you. So like if you send me an email with your discussion, I can't put that in the discussion stuff for you. The system won't allow me to do that. It's a way of protecting the integrity of the system, so that only the students can post into that. I can set it up for what I'm expecting, but I can't post your material in there for you. And so what I'm going to say is that um, I expect everybody to try to get everything in on time. If you have an emergency or some reason that you can't post on time that is really important, a good reason, then send me an email about that and I'll try to work with you. But if that happens repeatedly, you may find that I'm a little less flexible on that. So do your best to get everything in on time, and the easiest way to do that is don't put it off to the last day. And that's the best advice I can give. And again, this is not hard. This is not asking for very much. I'm not looking for um, just a super detailed discussion. And most of the assignments are actually very easy as well, so this shouldn't be very hard to do. But I did want to make that announcement that I'm probably going to be a little less flexible about posting things late. Now we'll talk about the percentages of grades here in a few minutes, and in the other reason I'm doing this is because if you need to miss a discussion or two, that's not going to hurt your grade hardly at all. So, and you'll see that in a minute when you see the percentages. So don't panic. I have some students that just panic because they're afraid they're going to get really docked on their grade because they didn't get something turned in or something on time. And especially for the discussions, that's not going to hurt your grade very much if you have to miss one every now and then. Just try not to make it a habit, or it would add up a little bit then. Now on the assignments, we have an area called the Dropbox. And the Dropbox, whenever I give you an assignment, I'll post an item here for it. And it's got a nice handy reminder here when it's due. And your end might not show all of this detail because mine shows how many files are loaded and that kind of thing. But you should see at least the end date and the title of the assignment. Now these will be linked in the summary of activities back in the content page, so you'll know exactly what you're supposed to be doing that week. And in the 101 class, we have quite a few of these, as you can see from last year, that add up throughout the year because basically each chapter in the Getting to Know ArcGIS Desktop will do exercises from most every chapter in there throughout the year. And then I'll occasionally supplement these with what I call a hands-on exercise. And the hands-on is usually something that I've made up on my own outside of the book that gives you some more experience with using GIS. I really like to supplement the book, especially in the 101 class, with some what I call the hands-on material. And the reason I do that is because if you just do what's in the book, you're going to learn how to use the software, which is great, but you're not going to really learn GIS just by doing the stuff in the book. You really need some hands-on material where you go out and get your own data and work with your own material. And I'm going to show you how to do that in the class. And so I think you'll find that very exciting, and you feel like you're really accomplishing something because really quickly you'll be able to go out and find data on your own for anywhere in the country and put this data into your GIS and do stuff with it. And that's really exciting when you can do that on your own and you don't have to rely on a book to give you some examples from the data disk or something like that. So think of the book, especially the Getting to Know ArcGIS Desktop book in this class, think of that as your resource for learning how to use the software, and they're giving you some data to use to help you to be able to focus on how to use the software, which is really important because in this class, this is where you really start learning that software. And then along the way, we will also work outside of the book with some hands-on stuff that shows you where to go get data that you can work with. And I'll show you how to apply some things that may not be covered in the book on using that data in GIS. So you're going to get a little bit of two sides here. You're going to get the textbook and some hands-on stuff. And it's a lot, I'll be honest with you, it's quite a bit of work, but it's not hard work. It's work that if you're serious about learning GIS, then you'll find that it's not very hard, and I think you'll actually really like the hands-on stuff as well as the book. The book is very good if you're a type of person that needs to be guided step by step through the examples. and a lot of us are that way, especially in the beginning. But then the hands-on stuff sort of takes you away from that dependency on being guided step by step, and gradually gives you some skills to be able to go out on your own and apply GIS. So you're going to get a little bit of both in this class. The class is a 4 credit hour class instead of a 3, which all of the other classes are 3 credit hours. And a lot of it is for that reason, because you are actually doing more work in this class than you would in a 3 credit hour class. And so that's why we were able to get it up to a 4 credit hour. So again, it's all doable, and it's all pretty straightforward. So I think you won't have any problem with it. But this is where you'll post your materials, and we'll talk more about what you post and so forth as the assignments come up. What else to show you? The grades and the quizzes are not active. When you click on these, you don't see anything in here. I'm not using those, so you can just overlook those for now. I will give you some feedback, of course, on your grades as we progress, and we will have a few exams in the class, but I don't really give a lot of quizzes because you're getting a lot of hands-on work with the exercises and so forth. So let me switch over now. That's pretty much the momentum pages that we use in the class. And again, that content section is where you're going to find the bulk of your materials. And the news page, when you first log on to the site, is where you'll find the latest updates and announcements and that kind of thing. So let me switch over now to another page. Let's go to the syllabus, if I've got that on here somewhere. Okay, I'm going to quickly go through the syllabus here because a lot of this information I've talked about while we were looking through the Momentum site. But on our syllabus, you'll see my contact information right up front. And excuse me, I'm giving you my email. I'm giving my email, of course, on the Momentum email, as well as my roanestate.edu. Again, try to use Momentum as much as you can, unless it's something that pertains to outside the class, or if Momentum was to go down or something like that in an emergency. My number here, this is my cell phone number. Now, some people have told me I'm crazy for giving out my cell phone number, but that's the best way to get a hold of me. And the reason being is because I'm really focusing the contacts after 5 p.m. because, as I mentioned in the other part of the introduction, I do work a daytime job, and really and truly I can't. I got to try to keep the two separate because I don't want to get into any conflicts of interest or anything like that. So I'm trying to focus my contacts for the Roane State classes when I'm not at UT. So what I'm going to ask this semester, and this is sort of new, in the past I've just sort of opened it up and said call me when you need me, but for here I'm going to say to call me after 5 p.m. Okay, and you can call me. I usually try to leave my cell phone turned on until around, a lot of times 9 p.m., but 8 or 9 p.m. You might miss me and I might have to call you back, especially if it's a little bit later. Because I might be doing something with the kids or doing homework with the kids or something like that. But I will try to call you back, and I'll do my best to call you back that evening. It's good if you can let me know in your message how late I can call you back. And again, this is if you really need me. What I would encourage you to do is to use the email for non-emergency items. And what's an emergency and not an emergency is kind of relative to everybody at first. I know people sometimes panic a little bit and they worry a little more than they have to about some of the assignments in terms of what's an emergency, but if you need me, just contact me. Again, the best way is through email. If it's an emergency and email's not working for you, then you can call me on my cell phone, and I will do my best to help you. And just try to call me after 5, and I'll try to, if I'm there, I'll answer it. But if not, I'll call you back. Make sure you let me know how late I can call you and what your number is I should call you at. Try to give me as much details as you can, especially in the email, about your situation or the issue that you might be having, and that may help me a bit to do a little preface work before I contact you. So you have that information. I don't have any office hours. That's why I'm giving you this information. I don't really go to Oak Ridge campus, which is where our GIS program resides out of. very often because I'm not over there very often. And so it being an online class, I'm not really required to be over there in person. And it's really difficult for me to try to get enough time. As you know, I've explained before about the daytime jobs and the classes I'm taking and so forth. So it's really tough. I wish I could because I really enjoy that. Actually, even better than the online, to be honest with you. But we're sort of faced with the situation we've got. So I will do my best to help you over the phone and through email. And probably 95 out of 100 problems we can deal with that manner. In the cases we can't, then we have Pat Worth, who is there full time at Roane State, who is very good about helping us with situations that require somebody in person. So there you have that information. The course I mentioned, I think it's about 15 weeks usually. Sometimes we'll go 16, but this semester I'm not sure if it's 15 or 16, but we'll have it worked out in the last part of the syllabus here real soon. It's a 4 credit hour class. It's an asynchronous class, which means that it's not live. So the good thing is you can listen to these recordings and go through the material at your own pace. On a week by week basis. You do have deadlines for assignments and so forth, but it primarily revolves around a week by week format and going at your own pace. New material I try to have posted on Mondays, again, usually by 10 o'clock. And occasionally I'll have to miss that date, and I apologize for that. But it's very rare that I'll miss the day. Sometimes I'll miss the 10 o'clock and get it to you in the afternoon, but usually I do hit the Monday as best I can. And posting times I'll give you on the summary of activities when things are due, so you'll have that information. I'm going to let you read through the objectives of the class. It's basically an introductory to GIS class. You'll be learning the software and GIS skills though in this class, so we do cover a lot of material in this class. Once you've completed this class, you're technically eligible to take any of the other classes. You'll have the background material that you need to actually start on any of the other classes. So that's the good part of this. I know several of you started last spring, and that's not unusual. We usually have some people that start in the spring, and by the time you take this class, you'll wish you were able to take this class probably before last spring, but you'll also find at the same time that this class will be a lot easier because you'll already have learned stuff sort of the hard way in a way by taking it in the spring and having to learn a lot of this introductory material sort of on the side on your own outside of the class. So here you'll get the material that you probably wished you'd had before last spring if you're in that boat. Most of you are taking it for the first time and just started your classes here in the fall. So this will all be new for everybody in that case. Prerequisites, I think I mentioned earlier, there really are not any other class prerequisites, but you are expected to have a working knowledge of how to use Windows. Which version is up to you. The software will work on Windows 7 or Windows 8. And so a lot of you have one of those two. I don't think, I was looking, I've got my disk here. I wanted to see if it works on XP. The previous version did, and I'm not positive if this version does or not, to tell you the truth. And it doesn't really say on my copy here. So if you have Windows XP and you have a problem getting it installed, then that could be why. But I'm going to say for sure I know it works on Windows 7 and Windows 8, and XP I'm not positive about. If you only have XP, then try it because it may be fine on XP. But I know it works on Windows 7 and Windows 8. And you also need to know how to install software, of course. You'll be installing some software during the course. And a basic understanding of file management concepts, what it means to copy or move a file. Windows Explorer, it really helps if you're comfortable using Windows Explorer. I have a little quick tutorial I do on that, but it really helps if you've used it already. And basically a knowledge of what we mean by compressing files. We use a zip program, we call it. There's different versions. There's either WinZip or 7-zip. And we compress files because we handle a lot of files in this class, in any GIS class really. I mean, you actually work with hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of files over time. And so you'll get a lot of skills and practice on organizing information. And you'll find that I'm really big about that, and a little bit of a stickler, I guess you could say, just to to helping you to be more organized with your file management. And so you'll find I use subfolders a lot, and you'll get a lot more information about this throughout the class. And I think you'll appreciate having that knowledge once you're done, because I'm really big about making sure that the students are able to organize their data. And just because it's so important, because you have so many files that you work with, if you don't have some kind of organization to it, it becomes just a mess really quick, and it's hard to keep up with things if you don't keep very organized about it. So you'll get a lot of that. The topics in the class, again, I'll let you read through a lot of this. A lot of this we've already mentioned. Um, Textbooks, we talked about those. I didn't get to show them to you on the video, but if you're in the 210 class, I did highlight these books in there as well, because they were listed as optional books for that class. And the Getting to Know ArcGIS Desktop is our hands-on book. Um, the, it, there's a new version out that goes with the software. We're using version 10.1 on the software, and you will need to get this new book. I know a few of you have this book from previous semester's class, and I hate for you to have to buy another book. This is the only one that I'm requiring you to get a new one of if you do have the old one. And the reason is because it has changed a lot. For the first time in many years, we've got new authors for the book even. And they try to stick, it looks like pretty similar from what I can see. I haven't worked through it yet myself because I just got it too. So I'm going to be working through it with you at the same time. But in flipping through it and looking at it, it looks very similar in the organization as the previous books. But I think they use different examples, and they've got their own style, I'm sure, on how they're presenting this material. And it looks really good, by the way. If you have the other book, all the versions of this book have been really well liked by the students. And this version here looks even more complete to me. It's a little bit longer, and I like the way they're organizing the chapters. So this is a good book. So you'll want this book. And again, I apologize if you've already got an older version for having you have to buy this version too. But it really is needed to go with this new software that we're running, version 10.1. On the 10.1, there's a section in that book that shows you how you can download that software program, and you can get it from a website on that Esri has set up, and you install that. It walks you through a lot of the process, at least for acquiring the software and how to start installing it. There's a code on the last page of your Getting to Know ArcGIS desktop book. The cover on the back, on the lower right corner, you'll have an authorization code. And I'm going to skip out of this document here just a minute to show you what it looks like, if I can get it to come up here, when you go to that website. Okay, so here's the website that you'll go to. The book has the address for you, and when you get to there, if you haven't set up a global account yet with them, as I mentioned in the previous video, then you'll need to set up a global account. It's free. Just make sure you fill out all the information they ask for, and remember what you use, because that's going to henceforward be your contact with ESRI. So you do want to remember the information you entered in that and use a valid email and so forth. If you already have an account, you just log in with that account, and when you log in, it will take you to this page here. And this is where this authorization number is the number that's in the last page of your book. And you enter that number here, and I've already done it on my end, so I'm not going to walk through it again. But it will pretty much walk you through it at that point. They will give you yet another number, if I'm not mistaken, at least that's the way it did on me, that you'll use to actually activate your software with at some point during the activation process. So be sure you keep up with any of the information they share with you on that. Hopefully they're still doing it that way. They tend to change this process a little bit over time, so I'm not going to say 100% sure that's the way it will work, but at least that's the way it worked with me when I went through it last, which has not been very long ago, a few months ago. So you can download the software. It's a big program. It takes a while to download. Now that's one option that you can do. And what this will get you is a 180-day trial version, complete version of the software. Now, what you can also do for those of you that are taking some of the in-person classes at Oak Ridge, you can, if you're at Oak Ridge, you can get a copy of the software on a disk from Pat Worth, and she will, and you only need one because you use the same one in each class, and you can install it from a disk, you going that route. Now, if you go that route, it works pretty much the same way. There's an authorization code on the back of cover of the disk there that you use. The biggest difference is between the two processes is that you get the disc that she has is good for a year. So you've got a 1 year license to it. Now, Esri will let you upgrade as long as you're a student, so it's not a real issue which way you go. You are supposed to, at least that's the way they've explained the process. You're supposed to be able to use another license code and continue with your trial version as long as you're a student. So either way you go here, you're going to be okay. But if you want to wait and get a hard copy of the disc, then try to get that as soon as you can so that you don't fall behind in the class, so you can get that installed. It takes a little while to install this program. It's a really large program. Takes maybe 30 minutes sometimes to install. And just remember a couple tips as you're doing the installation. Be sure to complete it in one setting. Try to have enough time set aside that you can finish the install. Install the extensions at some point during the installation. It will ask you if you want to activate. And I may be wrong. They may have changed it now. It typically it installs everything, but at the end when you license it, it will ask you for the number that they gave you either online or in your disk if you get the disk from Pat. And it will also ask you if you want to license the optional extensions. And always say yes, because they've already installed that software on your computer, so you might as well activate it in case you want to try it. And then also there are about 2 or 3 of the extensions that we are required that you'll need in classes. If not in this class, you'll need them. Actually, you will need some of them in this class, the spatial analyst, for example. And then you might need some of the other ones like the 3D analyst and the networking analyst and that kind of thing in some of the other classes. So make sure you install the extensions at the same time you're going through this process. The only other thing I can think of when you're doing the installation, when it asks for your organization, don't abbreviate it RSCC, spell it out, Roane State Community College. Again, use your real email address, real contact information, and so forth. And it should get you through. Every now and then students have a problem getting the software installed, and it's usually because either something on their computer or a little glitch that they've maybe entered something wrong during the installation or so forth. So be real careful, follow it step by step as you're installing it, and you shouldn't have any problem. If you do, then as I mentioned before, it's hard for me to help you a lot with the installation because I'm not there with you. So your options are either to call ESRI and get help. Always send me a note anyway, though, because if there's something, it might be something easy that I can help you with, for one thing, but also it lets me know that you're having an issue, and then you can let me know when you get it resolved as well. But if you can either call ESRI or you can contact Pat Worth if you can get to Oak Ridge in person, and Pat can help you a lot of times as well. So hopefully not many of you will have that problem with getting it installed, but if you do, I didn't want you to feel like you were totally on your own there. Okay, so that's the software. So you'll need that. Now let me bounce back over to our syllabus here, and we'll wrap things up. The other book we use is this Introduction to Geographic Information Systems. We've used this book for a number of years as well, and it's a really good book for giving you the reference. I consider it a reference book, as well as I'll give you a lot of reading assignments out of this book as well. It's where you're going to pick up a lot of you might say the theory of GIS, though that might not be the best word to use for it, but you're going to pick up a lot of your understanding about what GIS is from this book. The Getting to Know book is a very hands-on book that lets you get familiar with the software, And then, as I mentioned elsewhere, I will give you some hands-on stuff as well to go with that. So you'll get materials from the book, and then you'll get what I have down here is this supplementary materials, where I'll give you some handouts or links to other websites or assignments that I create myself and things like that. I also use videos a lot, and I'll introduce a lot of the hands-on material through videos. So that'll be a big way you'll get information. But this textbook, I wanted to mention, for those of you that already have this from a previous semester, you don't have to run out and buy the new book. I mean, I know it's like over $100 to buy it new. Just shocking how much books cost nowadays. But it is a really good book. But if you have the 6th edition of this book, just keep that edition unless you just want to get the 7th edition. And the chapters, I'm sure, are very similar. I haven't went through them one by one to compare them completely, but it's very rare that it's been changed so dramatically that we couldn't use the previous book. Okay, so this is mainly designed to get you some background information about GIS. He does have some exercises and examples in there. I typically don't require those as we go through it. It's optional. If you want to do it on your own, it's fine. It's a great way to reinforce the material you're reading about. But in my feeling is we get enough with the Getting to Know ArcGIS desktop that I try not to burden you with too much work. So if there's something that the class is having a lot of problems with, or if there's just a particularly well-designed example in here, then I might, I guess I reserve the option there to give you an assignment from the book. But it's very rare that I would do that. So just wanted to mention that. But that said, it is a really good book for learning what GIS is and the fundamental logic and theory behind GIS. And you really need to get that in this class. It's something that this is a foundation class that gets you the fundamentals of GIS. And that's what this book will help you with a lot. So you'll find that a lot of the material on the first exam comes out of this book, and some of the supplemental readings, of course, that you'll have. And then the second and third exams are more hands-on and applied. And between the Getting to Know book and our hands-on information, which is where a lot of it will come from for those tests. So supplementary sites, I'll use a lot of supplementary websites in this class. I'll show you where you can get software as well as data. And so I'll give you some good resources there. And I've got some optional text here. You don't have to rush out and buy these if you don't want to. That's fine. But I'm always big about sharing information about books that are available and things like that. And just wanted to let you know that there are some other materials out there that you might find helpful. Those of you taking the 210 class will have this Mastering ArcGIS book from that class. So you'll have that. So I'll cross-reference a lot of these books where I need to. This GIS and the public data, I'll post some slides that the author of that book has given me permission to share with you. I'll post slides out of that book and have some examples and stuff. It's really good book for learning about some of the most foundational or base data, I guess you could say, that's out there. A good understanding of that base data. And there are other books I might share with you as well, just to make you aware of as we go throughout the semester. I find a lot of times students ask me, what's another book I can use to learn a little bit more about this particular aspect of GIS. And so while you're not required to buy those in any way, I will occasionally share stuff like that with you. The assignments and stuff, what I typically do in this class is I will give exercises out of the book. And then again, like I mentioned before, a few hands-on exercises as well, especially as we get further into the class. And those will typically be due on a Sunday at the end of the week. Sometimes they'll be due in 2 weeks. So we have the exercises, that's one part of your grade. We have the discussions, that's another part of your grade. And then we have 3 exams in the class. And the first exam is mainly a lot of the background out of your introduction book and the readings and so forth. It's a more typical formatted test. It's a lot of true, false, multiple choice, short discussion, things like that. It's not as much applied as it is more of a typical kind of exam. The last 2 exams are really hands-on. I feel like it's really important that you're able to demonstrate how to do things that you've learned with a GIS. And by the time we get to those exams, you'll have a lot of those skills, so it won't be a big deal. And a lot of students tell me they like the last two exams the best because it's actually applying the stuff they've learned. And so we'll talk a lot more about those exams as they come up. I typically post a sample exam from a previous semester's class so that you have a very good idea of what to expect on the exam as it comes up. So those of you that may, sometimes people have a little test anxiety and things like that, I do myself. So I just wanted to let you know that I understand about that and I'm with you. So just don't panic, I guess is what I'm trying to say now. The tests are not that hard, and usually you'll have a reference test to go by that while it may not be one for one with what our test is going to have, at least it will give you a really good idea of the format of the test for sure, and a lot of times the actual type of material that's going to be on the test as well. And so we'll have that as what I call a test review. That's usually my test review, is to give you a previous year's test. I don't always give you the answers to them necessarily. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I give you post a video that demonstrates how to do the test, but usually I'll let you work through that. It's a review test, but you'll find the answers yourself. So we've got that. Let's see. Here is the percentages. The class participation. A lot of that is from your discussion postings, and that's 15% of your grade. And the class assignments are 25%. And as I mentioned earlier, if you have to miss an occasional class participation, discussion posting, it's not going to kill your grade because it's not that big a percentage as a whole. And we're doing quite a few discussions throughout the semester. So they're going to count proportionally, some proportional percent of that fraction, basically, of that 15% for each one. So don't panic. Again, you don't. If you have to miss one, don't panic. Is what I'm saying. But that said, try to complete all of them and think of it as the easy part of your grade. It's really an easy 40% of your grade to just turn in the assignments and to do your discussion postings. Now on the assignments, let me mention while we're here the way I do assignments. Now the assignments are typically exercises out of the book, and again sometimes supplemented with a hands-on, and they're very step by step. The book is very meticulous about working through the exercises, or at least the previous books have been. We're using this new version this year for the Getting to Know book, but from what I can see through it, they've kept that format, and they're very step by step. And so I don't typically grade all these assignments because everybody will get 100, in most cases. It's not something that is really a right or wrong per se. It's you're trying to accomplish a goal and you have an end product. How you got to that step by step is going to vary. I mean, once you've picked up some skills, you might be able to do it a little differently than the book shows and still get to the same end. But what I would encourage you to do is follow the book step by step and work through the assignments, and I think you'll find that they're pretty easy when you do it that way. Occasionally somebody has a problem with them, and occasionally we'll find a glitch in the book where maybe there's a mistake in the book or something that trips you up. It's very rare, but it does happen. And so what I always tell people is I'm expecting you to post some assignments, your results on the schedule that we establish, usually weekly. If for some reason you've had a problem and you can't complete that, post what you have anyway, so that at least I know you're doing it, you're working at it and you're trying. If you have a problem that is a technical problem that you feel like you've tried it and retried it a few times and you're just not able to do it, and you have a question about that, then let me know either in an email separate or in the little note when you attach your assignments to the Dropbox. It's pretty straightforward. You go into Dropbox, you click on that week's assignment, and it will let you upload your work, okay? When you do that, you can put a little note in there for me if you need to, if you've had a problem and you need me to look at something. Now, I'm saying this because I don't want everybody just saying, look at mine and see if it looks okay, because you know if it looks okay because the book shows you a picture of what it looks like. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to avoid having to go through and grade everybody's work when it's all pretty straightforward. It takes more time than I have to do that, and it's not something that again, it's not something that is typically a right or a wrong on each step. It's an end product. So what I'll do is if you've had a problem with something, then just what I ask of you is to tell me exactly what you're having a problem with and what it is you need me to check, and I will gladly help you. I don't want you to feel like I don't want to help you because I definitely do. But at the same time, a lot of times I'll get notes from students, just can you tell me if this looks okay? And really, you would know if it looks okay because the book shows you a picture of it, and so you'll know. So if you're having a certain problem, then by all means let me know, and I will help you with that problem the best I can. But if it's not something that's a definite problem that you're having, then don't worry about it. You just make sure you post what you've done, and I will go through and check and make sure everybody has posted their assignments. And if I need to look at something, I can. And then also, of course, if you need me to look at something, I will. So I just wanted to mention that. That's the way I do that. I don't want you to feel like because you haven't heard anything from me in a little while that there's a problem, okay? If you haven't heard anything from me, then that means you're probably okay. But again, if you have a question or wondering about something, then send me a note and let me know, and I will get back in touch with you on that. Otherwise, just make sure you always post everything on time and get everything loaded up there. The exams now, they're a little bit different story. The exams I do grade, and I will give you a grade back usually the week after we take the test. Sometimes it takes me a week and a half. Um, but I will give you feedback on there what your grade was, and I usually tell you what the correct answer was. And a lot of times I'll actually post an exam answer sheet for that. So the exams are different, and I will go through and grade all of those. And we have three of those again, and you can see here they're scaled in percentages. The first one is only 15%, the second one is 20%, the last one is 25%. These last two are hands-on, and the last one, I want to say it's comprehensive because you are expected to know what you've done earlier in the semester, but they're generally covering material that we've covered since the last exam. But a lot of times that will necessitate you having some skills from earlier in the semester as well. So in a sense, they are comprehensive as we go forward. But generally speaking, what's on them is the material we've covered since the last exam. Okay. And again, I'll give you some practice exams or sample exams, however you want to refer to it, in advance of those, so you'll have something to look at. Grading, pretty straightforward. 90 and above gets an A. It's all here. You can see how it's spelled out. The only other thing to mention is that to get a passing grade in the class, you do have to take all three exams. So you don't want to miss those exams. The exams, by the way, I will assign a date. That's one difference from the trend on the other material. While you typically have a week or more on the other material to get it posted and so forth, the exams take place on a certain night of the week in a certain time frame. A lot of times they're on a Thursday, but we'll find out what works best for most of the class. And then I'll post the date, the night in advance, at least 1 or 2 weeks before the test, usually more. I've got them on the syllabus when the dates or the weeks, I mean, when when I'm planning to give the exams now, and we'll nail down a certain date during that week as we get a little closer to the first exam. And once I find out the date that works best for everybody, then I usually stick with that day of the week on the other exams. And so we'll figure out what that is as we move forward. Like I say, a lot of times it seems to be on a Thursday. In the past has worked really well for people. But we do have that set up to where you take it that night, and it usually lasts anywhere from 3.5 hours. A lot of times you don't need that much time, but I do have to put some kind of a time limit on it. So I'll usually give you a pretty generous amount of time, and that's a block of time that you'll have to dedicate to working on that exam. And that's just, I do it that way because it just seems to work much better doing it that way. And if you can't take the exam on a certain night that I've set up, then I will work with you on an alternate date for that. And usually I would ask that you take it, the next night or the night before or something like that. Usually that same week to be fair to everybody else. But and I ask for you to let me know at least a couple weeks if you can in advance, for sure a week in advance, if you can't take the test because of a conflict on your schedule. And then you can let me know what the conflict is and that kind of thing, and I will work with you if you need to take it on a different date, because sometimes it's just impossible to find a date that works for the entire class. So we'll do the best we can on that, and we'll get through that. So don't worry about that. But I just wanted to mention that while we're here talking about it. Class participation, your discussions, are pretty important. It's a way to contribute to the class. Now, this first week, I'm going to ask that you post an introduction to yourself. And while it's technically not due until Sunday, it would be great if you could post it before Thursday for this first week. And because, for one, it's pretty easy to do. But for two, one of the requirements at Roane State, and they say like 90% of the students are getting financial aid. To get that financial aid, you have to be present in class that week, and the instructors are required to submit what we call a LDA when you basically when you attended, are you attending class or not, and we're required to post that by Friday. So I'm going to ask everybody this first week, if you can, to at least do your introductions by Thursday. That way I know you're present and participating in the class. This is really important. If I don't get that, then I'll list you as not in the class. So you'll be, if you're trying to get financial aid, they won't give you your check. So make sure that you let me know by doing your introduction that's how I'll know you're in the class. If you can't get it done by Thursday, at least shoot me an email or something and let me know, hey, I am in the class. I'm planning to get it done by Sunday, just wanted to let you know. Give me some form of contact by Thursday so that that I know you're here. So that way I can list you as present in the class. And so we'll work with that on this first week, and that'll get us through it. Now, if I see that you miss more than two postings in a row for some reason, then I may list you as not in the class again. If it's during the semester, I've got to have some way of knowing if people are attending or not. And so if for some reason you're not doing your postings, then you're probably going to get an email from me asking, hey, are you still here? What's up? If you, for some reason, every now and then somebody drops the class for whatever reason, if you do drop the class, please send me an email letting me know that you're dropping the class. It will show up on my roll, but I don't check that roll every week. It's just pretty cumbersome to do that every week. But if you would, I would ask that you please shoot me an email if you're going to drop the class for some reason, so I know that why you're not attending. Otherwise, I might end up submitting, that you're not attending class for whatever reason if I don't see any postings from you. So, but typically we always have something that's going on each week. So if everybody's participating, I'll know you're here. But again, this is for if I don't see something from you for some reason. So, and then the exams, I've already mentioned the percentages. I'll let you read through the rest. Plagiarism is something really bad here. You don't want to do that. They require us to put a lot of this in the syllabus. We do have accommodations at Roane State for students with disabilities. And we do have a lot of other support. I mentioned earlier that there's the help desk for the computing. There's a learning center. There's help with writing. We don't do a lot of writing in this class, but you have a lot of help at Roane State that is free and available for you. And so if you need help with something, by all means take advantage of that. And if you need help, let me know and I'll do my best to help you or put you in touch with somebody that can. And just wanted to let you know that there is help available. So don't feel like you're on your own in this class. And the syllabus, there are the actual details of the class schedule. I'm going to not cover those right now because I'll be updating some of those on the final version that you'll see. But I'll just scroll through here so you can see how I have it organized. Again, some of this material might look a little different on the actual version you see, but I organize it by week. I have the week over here and then the topics I'm planning to cover that week. And the chapters, and you'll see I've got the Chang book up here. That's our intro book, the reading book for the most part, and then the hands-on stuff in the getting to know book. Some of those chapters are kind of short, and so we'll cover more than one in a week. That's also, we have to do that to get through the book too sometimes. And I don't typically go through it in chapter by chapter order. This new book seems a little closer to the way I have organized my classes so in the past. So we might end up going through a lot of it chapter by chapter. We'll see when I get it set up. But that's how I've got the syllabus organized here for the class schedule. And I give handouts a lot, which is mainly links to other sites that you can download information. Just information I think is important to go with the subjects we're covering that week. I just wanted to say that this is my plan. This is subject to change. I always reserve the right to change this if and as we need to. Sometimes we don't get to cover everything that we plan to cover in a given week, and then sometimes there might be something new that comes up that we want to cover. And so if I have to change this, I will post it in red. You see here something I added last year, and I'll update it in red here. And then at the very beginning of the syllabus, I have that last revised date I stick in there, so you can always see when it was last revised. And just like I mentioned earlier on the summary of activities, I'll post a new notice beside the name up on the course content section. So that's another way to find out if I've updated it. And plus, I usually will mention it in the summary of activities if I've updated it. Don't update it very often because usually we don't need to, but every now and then we do. So if something changes, I'll make you aware of that one way or the other. You'll either see it posted or I'll mention it in the summary of activities. We have a few holidays this year. The holiday on Labor Day on the 2nd. And we've got our fall break, which is a Monday and Tuesday this year, which that seems a little different. Usually it's like a Thursday and a Friday. And then we've got, of course, the Thanksgiving holidays. Now, we'll be mostly done in this class with everything by Thanksgiving holiday, so that won't be a big issue. The holidays, by the way, you're not expected to have to work on those days. So if it's on a Monday, sometimes I won't have it posted until the holiday's over, like a Labor Day. It might be Tuesday before it's posted. I might have it on Monday, but that doesn't mean you have to work on it on that day. It just depends. Sometimes I'll try to post them still on Mondays just to have them up there. And then if not, I'll get them posted the first day back on classes. So I guess that's about it. We've been going on for over an hour and 20 minutes, or almost an hour and 20 minutes here. I think we've covered about everything I wanted to cover. If you have any questions, send me an email. I'll be sending out emails to you asking for some more information, like your contact information, for example. It's good for me to have a cell phone number for you if you've got a cell phone or your home phone, or however I can get in touch with you if I needed to for some reason outside of Momentum. Don't usually have to do that. It's very rare, but it's nice for me to have that information just in case. The biggest issue that might come up would be if Momentum was to be down for some reason during a test or something like that, then I might need to reach you. Or if you forget to let me know your contact information when you've asked a question or something like that, it helps. So I'll typically ask for a phone number and an email address that's outside of Momentum if you have that, so that I have a way of reaching you if I need to. And I think that's about it. You've got my contact information. We went through a lot of stuff here. You can replay this video if you need to. Hopefully I haven't forgotten anything critical. If I do, I'll post it in the summary of activities. And I'm going to leave it at that for now. So you guys have a good first week. Sorry all this was so long, but up front it's kind of a lot of material to cover there that first week of introductory stuff. So take a look through the site, look through the Momentum site. Get familiar with what the postings are and how it's set up, especially in the content section. Look in the course overview, and in the course overview, there's might be a few other documents you want to look through that just basically summarizes a lot of what we've been talking about. And again, have a good week. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you. Thank you.